Right, so great to see everybody here, and welcome to my sales mastery workshop. I know a few of you have done this before, but it's always good to sort of refresh. We do have a good contingent from R&B, who I'm pretty much, most of you are not in what I would call frontline sales roles, aren't you? So, you know, sales is an addition to what you do. And I suppose, Jan's probably the most sort of sales focused individual here. Gary's working on sort of, in the delivery plus doing the sales as well. So I'm going to keep this sort of, as, I suppose, as simple as I possibly can. This isn't going to be sort of high level sales, but I think sometimes if you understand the process of it, then you can apply that process to whatever area of sales that you're focusing on. So I think it's key to understand that for me, having learnt sales, I hadn't been in sales really until about 15, 16 years ago. It was very alien. I hadn't sold anything to anybody for nigh on 30 odd years. So actually coming into this and going, right, I've got to learn that skill, was something I didn't relish at the time, but as I've learned that skill, I've actually become to enjoy it more and more. So this is sort of an amalgam of all the things that I've learned, I apply within my own business, and I've been teaching for a number of years. So I am going to switch all of your mics off if you don't mind, or if I can ask you just to sort of switch your mics off. And if you do want to contribute, if I do ask you, if you press the space bar, then you can contribute or use the chat box. So I'll just start the chat there so you know where the chat box is. Hopefully that will pop up on your screen and you can join in with any sort of questions that I have as we go through. So for those that haven't been to any of our workshops before, there's a series of 6 of these. They rotate every 3 months and really cover what I would call the fundamentals of business, from time management through to building teams, sales, marketing, finance, and customer repeat business. So, but today is really about sort of sales. So what I'd like you to do is just in the chat box, just type, is there something specific you would like to get out of today? So maybe your role requires it. Maybe it's a challenge you've had in sales. Certainly for those of you who are not doing sales all the time. Maybe there's a fear of sales that you've got, or just something sort of, I'd rather not just sort of, or just more info on sales. If you think of something a little bit more specific, that will be great. So Jan, what do you mean by focus? Just unmute yourself there for a second and give me a bit of clarity on that.
Sorry, I'm just having a late lunch. I'm just kind of drinking soup at the same time. So by focus, I mean that kind of, I've got a sales background. On the main, there's always more that you can learn. But on the main, I know the fundamentals and more. But by focus, I feel by having just a refresher and going through this today, it's going to focus me on the task ahead, which, as you know, because I want to grow the business to the level that I want to.
Yeah.
And I've got so many things going on, juggling many balls at the moment, that I can't lose sight of the fact in my mind, in order to grow my business, I have to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and other people have to sell on my behalf. So it's just pressing the reset button, hopefully, today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So giving you that sort of structure to build on is going to be very useful for you. So
yeah.
So Andy said generating leads. Today isn't about the generating lead side. The leads that's what we do in the marketing workshop. This is more about converting the leads that come in. So this is, once somebody's shown an interest, how do we get them across the line? So I will cover a little bit of that in the goal setting side we're going to move on to, but this really is about thinking, a leader's come in, how do I convert that person and turn it into a sale. So, okay, so just have a think that there's a particular area that you're focused on, because that will help you pull out from what I go through today what is going to be relevant to you. So what we've got to understand to start with is that the sales, where sales fits, as I said, this isn't marketing, this isn't about lead generation, this is very much about conversion. Yeah, so here we're really looking at the conversion rate here. So lead generation is marketing, conversion is converting those into sales, number of transactions and average transaction value we deal with customer mastery. So that's all about repeat business. And those four things together drive our sales within our profit and loss account. Okay, so we've got to understand where we are with, when we're focused on sales specifically, it's really targeted at that conversion rate and how we get people across the line. So I start this one regularly. I talk about the be, do, have, and that we've got to have our dreams and our goals. So we've got to be clear what we want to get. Then we've got to know what our attitude is and our skills. So what are we going to do to build those up? And what physically are we actually going to do? So while today predominantly is going to be around these two here, the first thing we've really got to understand is what are our goals. When it comes to sales, what is it that we really want to achieve? So even those of you that aren't necessarily salespeople, if you're getting involved in sales, if those R&B, Clive, Julian have said, look, I want you to be involved in sales, and you've got the potential here to upsell, cross-sell, bring more business in, the first thing you've got to really understand is, okay, so what is being asked of me? What are my goals? What are my targets? Because without that clarity, it's like going into to play darts or a sport and not knowing what the purpose of the game is. Yes, you can play it, you can try things, but unless you're really understanding what it is you're trying to get out of it, then you'll end up just going through the motions and probably not doing enough, or doing too much in the wrong direction. So we've really got to start thinking, within sales, what is our goal? And this should start right from the top. So in the organization as a whole, we've got to be looking at where we want that business to be. So the first thing I'd always sort of say is, if, let's say, this is a little example, 2019, that we had 2.6 million of sales, 290,000 of profit, 2020, 3.6, 380,000. What, if we were setting a goal for the following year, what do you think we would sort of go for that goal to be? So Roger, go on, you've got an analytical brain here. You can solve complex puzzles. So what would be the missing figures in that those numbers there? Just, you have to push the space bar to unmute yourself. Now hold it down, Roger. Hold the space bar down. No, I can't hear you. Hold the space bar down. No, it's not working. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I got you.
Well, you could sort of very quickly fit an exponential curve to it and work out what the next amount would be on your calculator.
Yep.
But the reality is that things go up and down. You don't know what causes that 3.2 million. You could have just had a big order that year, and invoicing can be lumpy. It depends on the nature of your business.
Yeah.
But if you fit a simple exponential curve, you could guess. I can't do the maths in my head right now, but it could be sort of like the ratio of 2.6 to 3.2, then ratio again.
Yep. you could go, 2.6, 3.2, 3.8. Gareth has said 4.4. You could go up 10%. You could go up 20%, couldn't you?
Mhm.
You just take last year's figure and you do something to that figure that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people set their sales targets, because they take last year's figure and then they just add a bit and change it. Okay. Now, that's better than nothing, but it's not what we want to be able to do at this level. Okay. We want to really understand, where do our sales come from? So if we actually break this down into its component parts and we start looking and saying, right, so what did our existing customers do during the year? Okay, so we can see that our existing customers are selling 1.82 million pounds of sales. We've added new customers of 165. So sorry, this is numbers of customers. So that's the number of customers we've got. We've added this number of customers to our marketing and sales. So, and out of that, we've got active clients, so people that have bought from us this year. So we know that number. So we know that roughly 20% of our current client base buys from us year on year. Then we can say they spend an average transaction value. Generally, in this case, they buy from us sort of here once 1.3, and here we've our sort of sales figures here. So this 2.6 and 3.2, we can now see I've got a number of. Oops, I'm ahead of myself. Oh, okay. So with 2.6 and 3.2 here, we can see that there's a lot of numbers that make those up. So, and then obviously we've got our profitability in there and our overheads. So that's how those numbers are made. So if we're really looking to build on this, what we want to be able to do is see if we're looking forwards, is to say, right, our existing customers are going to be what we ended up last year with. How many new ones do we want to add? Yeah, maybe we need to get rid of some of the old dead ones, so sort of cleanse our database. But we want to make sure that we're reinvigorating, going back to our customers. So can we get our 427, 20% active clients up to 650, 30%? Okay, now that's what we would do in the customer mastery. How do we re-engage with past clients? How do we get existing clients to buy more? And we'd say, can we increase our average transaction value? So can we go from 5 to 6,000? So upselling, cross-selling. So things that we're actually already doing that we could just eke a little bit more profit out of our existing client base. And can we get them to come back more often? So can we increase that repeat business so they're coming back more? We don't just let them go away. We keep in contact with them and make sure that they buy from us again. So again, these are all customer mastery transactions in here. So we can start to see that actually we could, if we did all of these things, so 200 new clients in, increase our retention rate, get clients to come back, add more, we could actually increase our sales to 5.4 million. Now, if we just done a 10%, 20%, then we may have got sort of underestimated what we could actually achieve. So we've really got to, at the top level, start thinking more specifically of how our revenues are actually generated. It's not just about sales is hitting the top line. No, sales is conversion rate. There's marketing involved in this. There's customer sort of service involved in this. There's a number of things that are involved in actually driving that revenue target. Okay, so if we are given a sales target, we've got to make sure that we're in control of that, and what is it actually that's required from us. How much of that is marketing, how much of that is repeat business, how much of that is pure sales conversion. So the numbers we're going to start to need to know are, what is our rate of existing business? How many new clients do we want? What do we want to get out of our existing client base? You know, be really clear when you're giving, or you're creating your own sales target, or you're being given one, that you really understand how that is going to be made up. Otherwise, you'll be accepting a target that you won't be able to deliver on. So, and you know, you've got to break it all the way down into number of leads, conversion rates. I call leading and lagging KPIs. So leading KPIs are activity-based KPIs, lagging are the results. Okay, that's probably more specific when we look at the marketing than it is in the sales itself. So if you are in sales, if you're tasked with anything sales related, you must have some numbers that you're tracking, because you've got to know what success looks like and how close to that success you actually are. Okay, if you're not doing that, then in my mind, you're not really doing sales. You know, it's just a byproduct of the day-to-day activity, and you may get some sales, you may not get sales. All the top sales performers, you know, have a set of numbers and they hold themselves accountable to achieve it. That's why salespeople are generally good. You know, good salespeople own their own numbers, and they don't need somebody actually holding them accountable to those numbers. They want to smash their numbers. They're very, generally salespeople have a competitive nature in them. Okay, they want to achieve the targets that they've set themselves. So, okay. So, any questions? I know for some of you that are not in sales, that might be a little bit sort of over your head. But the essence of this is, you know, if you are in sales, you've got to have some numbers that you're actually working towards. You know, to me, it's no different to, you know, if you're in manufacturing operations and you have to make something, you know, somebody needs a drawing with some measurements on it. Because how do you know if you've actually produced what you've been asked to unless you've got a drawing with some measurements on it? Same with sales. You need a drawing, you need to understand what sales you're looking for, and you need to be able to measure it. Any questions on there? If you want to put them in the chat box, or just unmute yourself if there are. Okay, so once we've got those measures, then we need to, what I would call, smartify them. So SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, within a time frame. Yeah. And if we want to smartify them, we need them to be inspiring and emotional, because, as the old saying goes, smarties have the answer. Okay, so if you're setting yourself a sales goal, it's got to be inspiring and emotional. You've got to feel, yeah, if I achieve that, that's going to be great. I'm going to feel really good with that. Maybe there's for people who are on sales with commission, yeah, the commission is the inspiring and emotional thing. If I hit these targets, then I get paid a bonus for it. So and this is why I keep coming back, that in sales, you've got to have that goal. You know, what is it that's expected of me? What am I actually trying to achieve? Certainly, if you're delegating it to somebody else as well, so people like Jan is going to delegate off to other salespeople, be very, very clear what their sales target is and the fact that they can be in control of it. Because there's nothing worse than being given a sales target that you have no control over achieving. Because that's the quickest way to get somebody completely demotivated. Okay, so understanding our numbers, breaking it down, keeping track of them and seeing how well we're performing is going to be key. So before I come on to this, let me just, because some of the numbers that you could do. So let's say we had leads coming into the business. So we had inquiries coming in. So let me say that I've got 100 inquiries. Okay, so of those 100 inquiries, there needs to be a qualification process. So I need to qualify them. So let's say on average, out of the 100, 50% are qualified. Okay, so that would give me 50 of those inquiries, which are now good inquiries. The others are just tire kickers or not interested. Once I've qualified them, I then need to do my sort of initial meeting. Now that might be going to see them, might be a phone call. There'll be some activity that's required then to actually come up with a quote. Okay, so of the 50, maybe I do 90% of those actually lead to a meeting, because 10% just drop out or disappear. So I've got 45 there that I actually meet with. So let's say out of the meeting, the 45, I should be converting 20%. So quoting 80% of those. Again, some may drop out as a result of that. So I think that's 9. So that'll be 36. I would then quote for. Okay, and of the quotes that I raise, then the ones that have agreement and I can invoice, let's say then 50%. So I've got 18. Yeah, and then I know my average order value is, let's say, 1,000. So I've got 18,000 sales. Okay, so if I want £180,000 of sales, and I know these numbers, then I know that I've got to do 180 invoices, I've got to do 360 quotes, and I've got to do 450 meetings. Okay, in which case I would need that 500 of those, and therefore I'd need 1,000 inquiries. So this would be marketing. So marketing needs to deliver me 1,000 inquiries. Okay, the qualification, I've got to be able to handle that number of inquiries coming in to qualify them. But have I got the time to actually spend meeting that number of people? So if I set myself too big a target and I don't have the time, I'm never going to achieve that target. I don't have the capacity to actually deal with it. So if we know these numbers, then we can start working out what we can achieve, and then we're not surprised when we achieve it or whether we don't achieve it. Because often too many people in sales set themselves too big a target and never have enough resource to actually deliver upon that. Okay, and then when we do the actuals, we can track against that and we can see whether we're ahead or behind the curve. So if we're not getting the leads, we can improve the conversion rate. If we can improve that, then we actually need less leads to actually get the same amount of business. So we can start playing around with these figures to see how well we're doing. So, okay, so within sales and marketing, these are numbers-led activities. The numbers are your scorecard. It's a game that we're playing. Success needs to look like whatever you decide success looks like, which is the goal, and then you actually put the numbers together to see how well you're doing. Okay. So once we understand what we're actually trying to achieve, then we can start looking at who we need to be and what we need to do. And the B's are beliefs. So something that we hold to be true. Now, for a lot of you, if you looked in the mirror and said, "Am I a salesperson?" what would that voice come back from the mirror? So Ben, you're on my screen now. So when you look in the mirror and you say, "Are you a salesperson?" does the mirror sort of say to you back?
Oh, it says no.
It says no. Yeah. So it can sort of say, "No, you're not really a salesperson. Yeah, I've never done sales. I don't like sales." So just in the chat box, what I want you to put is, if there was a negative sort of vision of salespeople you had, what would that negative sort of view be? So a word, a little phrase that would yeah, if you saw yourself and thought, oh, I don't really want to be a salesperson because salespeople are like, and a negative thing, what would that be? So Jan, pushy, yeah, good. Pushy, good. Aggressive, yeah. Liars, Roger, that's we'll have to sort of work out where that one came from. Irritating, yeah. And the other nice, you're being very polite. Overbearing, good. So we can start to see that, you know, for a lot of us that aren't in sales, we can have a lot of negative beliefs around being a salesperson. And if we've got a negative belief about something, then we're less likely to actually do the activities that needs to be done. So a lot of you will sort of look and say, well, I'm not really a salesperson. You know, salespeople are born salespeople. Yeah, and I wasn't really born a salesperson. But if you think about, you know, kids of this age, yeah, are kids of this age salespeople? Yeah, who's got just hands up, who's got sort of young kids sort of under 6, 7 years old? Your hands. Roger, yeah. Are they good at selling you on what they want? When it comes to Christmas, when it comes to weekends, when it comes to, you know, what they want, are they pretty good at selling to you? Claire, you were going to say something there, I think. Oh, there's a message there. So emotional blackmail without realizing it. So they're very good at tapping into the emotional aspect of sales. You know, they have an emotional connection because they're your kids. Yeah, but even somebody who isn't your kid is generally, you know, at that age, they're actually good salespeople. So actually, we're sort of all born good salespeople. But a lot of time is we're not actually practicing those skills, and then we start to sort of drift away and we start to think, well, when sales becomes about money, when it becomes about, you know, it's part of the job, when it's making me do things perhaps I don't really want to do, then we start thinking about those negative connotations, you know, that pushy salesperson that, you know, is forcing us to buy something we don't want to buy. But if we think that if sales, you know, isn't about selling things to people that don't want it, sales is about professionally helping people to buy. And sales is that point after marketing where there is an interest. You know, we're not trying to sell to people who don't have an interest. Yeah, we're just professionally helping them to actually buy something that's going to work for them. If we can start to change our beliefs into a positive one, then that is going to massively impact our ability to sell. And the way that we go through that is we have this sort of process of these 4 stages of learning. Okay, so when we're starting, so for those guys that aren't selling or haven't sold much, yeah, there's this point where you're unconsciously incompetent. Okay, you don't know that you're no good at sales. Blissfully unaware. I've never even thought about it. Okay, it hadn't even occurred to me that I was going to be, you know, I didn't get into this job to do sales. Yeah, I just seem to have, you know, fallen into it. So there's that unconscious incompetence. Once you're asked to do something, yeah, and you try it and it goes wrong or something happens, then you go into this conscious incompetent. Okay, so now you know you're not very good at it. Okay, now if you're in this box of consciously incompetent at something, yeah, how do you get out of that box? So James, can you unmute yourself a second, James? There'll be a button on the toolbar, or just press, if you press the space bar, it should unmute you.
Yeah.
Right on. There. So you're blissfully unaware. Now I've asked you to do something and you're not very good at it. Okay. How do you feel when you're in this box? And you're consciously incompetent at something.
You don't know what you're doing. Yeah, anxious.
Anxious, yeah.
Yeah.
Bit frustrated, bit fed up. Yeah. Where's your sort of incentive to do more of it?
Don't know.
It's not there, is it?
No.
Okay. Now the problem with, once we're here, we have a choice. Okay. We can move forward, which I'll talk about in a minute, or we can go back. We can go back to unconscious incompetent. Okay. So if you go back into unconscious incompetent, yeah, that's going back and pretending that you didn't want to do it in the first place. I don't want to do sales. Sales is for other people. I'm not a salesperson. So what happens is we start making excuses, and we potentially will blame other people, or we'll just pretend it doesn't exist. Okay. And for those that have done sort of my other workshops, this is what I call being below the line. So we go into this below the line mentality of, I'll make excuses. Oh, well, I was too busy. I was too busy to do sales. So I'm doing other things. Sales doesn't really matter. It's not really my bag. I don't want to do it. So we can only make excuses in here, because I can't actually go back into unconscious incompetence, because once I know I can't do something, I can't unknow it. So we get a bit stuck here. What we want to be able to do is push forwards, okay, and go into this conscious competence. So the way we do that is train. Okay, we have to learn new skills. We have to try it. We have to be prepared to fail. So there's nobody out there that has got to where they are in anything, in any discipline, without failing. Okay, if you think about the sports that you've learned, the games that you've played, you will have failed more times during the early days of that than you succeeded. Sales is no different. Okay, sales is a game that when you're starting it, you will fail more times than you succeed. But that's okay, because as long as you're failing forward and you're learning from the mistakes that you make, and you use that knowledge to get better the next time, yeah, then that's fine. Okay, if you keep doing the same things over and over again and you're always failing, well, then, and you're not learning new skills, then there might be a problem with that. But this transition here is hard work, you know? So it takes effort. When we're in this conscious competence, so we're consciously competent now. So I can do it, but I have to think about it. Maybe I'm not doing it day in, day out. I pick it up, I do it for a few weeks, and then I put it down and I do it again in a few weeks. If you think about the amount of energy that you burn here, you know, this is still quite hard work, isn't it? I remember go back to, you know, when you were driving a car, you know, this was that phase where you were fairly competent, but you were still thinking mirror, signal, maneuver. Oh, damn, I forgot my indicators. I didn't do my lifesaver. You know, and you're quite slow and it's a bit staccato. You don't really get into a flow, yeah, during this phase. But we have to keep pushing forwards, because ultimately we want to get into this unconscious competent. You know, we've practiced it so much. We've failed, we've learned, we've improved, that now I'm actually good at it. I don't even have to think about it. So if you think about when you drive a car now, you can drive a car listening to music, you know, looking out the window. Sometimes you'll drive, you know, from home to work and not even know how you got there. You know, you're such at an unconscious level that it's great. But the challenge with this one here is once you're in that unconscious competent, yeah, is you're actually not here, you're here. You're unconsciously incompetent at the next level. Just you haven't thought about what the next level is. So what happens in sales with salespeople is they get good at sales and they can hit their targets, and then they stop. Okay, they don't grow any further. They do just enough so that the boss isn't on their back, or they're able to sort of, you know, not be the worst in the sales team, or they do just enough to get, you know, their boss not sort of asking them have they done their sales this time, and then they stop. Rather than actually saying, okay, I know I'm going to be unconsciously incompetent at something, so what's the next level? How do I set my next goal, my next personal best? I did 100,000 of sales last year. Could I do 110 this year, 120 this year? Okay, I sold to 10 people. Can I sell to 20 people? You know, it's about driving ourselves forwards. And this is where elite athletes, you know, in sport, have this far more than normal athletes. Normal athletes get to a certain level, unconscious competent, and then they stop. Elite athletes keep pushing that to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. There's always something driving them. They have bigger goals that they're actually after. And that's what we're looking at in sales is, you know, we've got to understand where we are in these boxes and drive on to the next one. Because the enjoyment, I think, in life, you know, certainly in sales, is actually it's the transition between these boxes, not getting stuck in any one. Stuck in any one, that eventually becomes frustrating, you know, and tedious, and you know, and you don't want to do it anymore. Whereas if you're growing through here, then that's where life is going to be. Okay, so have a think about where you are. Yeah, so just on your piece of paper, just jot down, you know, with sales, you know, which of these boxes are you actually sitting right now? Some of you might be down here, you know, some of you are up at this level, some are here, some are going to be here. But then it's a case of what do I need to do? What do I need to work on myself in order to get to the next level? And in order to master something, so if you want to be a great salesperson, yeah, then it's going to take you 10,000 hours, yeah, to actually master that skill. So if you did want to be a great salesperson, I know some of you that's not the number one aspect of your role, but if you did want to go after it, then you're going to be looking at around about 10 years, yeah, to actually achieve that. If you're working, you know, 4 or 5 hours, you know, 3 hours a day, it's going to take you 10 years. If you're doing 5, 6 hours a day at it, it should take you 5 years. Okay, if you're spending the whole day, you know, you could be down at 2, 3 years. So also accept, you know, if sales isn't your number one job, that it's going to take you a long time to master it. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't still enjoy it and still keep moving yourself forwards. Okay, and that's the same for any skill. So even in your day-to-day operational activities, you know, that process is still there of this sort of 10,000 hours of practice. Yeah, and that's why when people look at sport, you know, top sports people or people who have achieved a lot, you go, wow, you know, wouldn't it be great to be like you? What you don't understand is they've actually dedicated their entire lives to being that good. They've put their 10 hours a day in every day, come rain or shine. And that's why they're good, but only because that's what they wanted to achieve. Their goal was so powerful that they forego everything else in order to achieve that. If you're not prepared to give up things to achieve, then you're not going to achieve as much as you could do. So when it comes to sales, I don't think you can ever stop learning. You know, it's an ongoing process. So there should always be, you know, a sales book that you're coming back to. I mean, the good thing about successful people in any discipline is they generally write a book about it. So, you know, and I think sales books are probably one of the most widely written about books in all sorts of disciplines. So I know Gary Mowatt's, you know, got him sort of, you know, working on this guy down here, Zig Ziglar. He's a, you know, he's dead now. He was very much a 70s, 80s salesperson, but while the context in which he was selling is different to today, the concepts he talks about are still relevant. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're still selling to people, and people really haven't changed for hundreds, if not thousands of years. We're still emotional beings that have certain ways of thinking and acting in order that we need to sort of deal with that when we're actually selling to them. So, and that's why we use a lot within sales this profile. And I know the R&B guys, obviously this should be reasonably fresh in your minds from our DISC training a few weeks back. So what we have here is DISC is all about these 4 types of people. So we've got our outgoing people, we've got our reserve people, our people, and our task people. So, you know, these are dominant drivers. I's are our influencers, S's are our supporters, and C's are our cautious, calculating people. Okay, so, you know, we're really looking at these types, you know, powerful, peaceful, perfect. So each of these profiles sell in a different way, and they like to be sold to in a different way. Okay, so if I take a high D, yeah, so a dominant driver. Now I know we've got one of these in the room. Is Gareth still with us? You still with us, Gareth? There is. Oh, can you come off mute for us, Gareth? There. Just the button where the microphone is. Click that, and it should just say "come off mute."
There we go.
So as a, you know, as a high D individual, yeah. If you think about how you like to be sold to, so if I was trying to sell you a car, let's say, yeah, how would you like me to sell to you this car that I've got?
Proper demonstration.
Yeah.
Graphically, tell me all the good points, not so much about the bad points.
Okay.
That's about it. What I can think of.
Yeah. Do you want me to waffle on about all the details of the car, its performance, all the metrics and things like that? No. Okay. How quickly are you going to make a decision whether you're going to buy this car or not?
I probably made the decision already.
Before you've even got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with these, because they're quite fast thinkers. Yeah. Because they want to move on to something else. Yeah. They're generally quite easy to sell to. What I find with a lot of when you're selling to a D is you've got more chance of cocking it up, yeah, than you have of not gaining the sale. Because they'll tell you straight away whether they're going to buy it or not. So you can be quite direct to a D. You can actually go to Gareth, look, you've seen the car, do you want to buy it or not? And Gareth will go, yes or no. He's not going to be offended if you do that. He's not going to go, oh shit, I need to think about this. Let me go away and talk to my wife. You know, let me go away and do a spreadsheet and see if I can afford it. You know, a high D will make a decision pretty quickly. So if you know you're dealing with one, then you can sell to them quite quickly. Yeah. If I'm a high D seller, yeah, and I'm selling to a high S, and I expect people to make quick decisions and, you know, and just make that decision from a few facts, yeah, and I try and do that to an S, it's not going to work. I'm going to push the S, and the S is going to think, oh, yeah, he's a pushy salesman. Yeah, he wanted me to sign today. I'm not ready to sign today. I need to go away and talk to people about it. If I go and I'm a high D and I try and sell to a C, yeah, I'm going to, you know, go into the facts fairly basic. These people want more detail. I want to see the specs on it. I want to see its emissions. I want to see its history. I want to go through all the paperwork. Okay, if you don't give me that, I'm just going to think, oh, you're just trying to sell me something. It's a pile of rubbish. Eyes are generally quite easy to sell to, because if an eye likes you, they'll buy from you. Okay, but if
Sorry.
Yeah.
In terms of easy, is that necessarily the right word? Because you've got a different problem with D's in that because they're easy to sell to, they might not have time or be that interested in giving you the full detail of what they need. And you might find that it comes back to bite you a bit later on when they realise that.
Oh yeah,
it tells you, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, these will buy things on the spur of the moment and then regret it afterwards. And then whose fault will it be that they've bought the wrong thing?
Salesperson.
The salesperson. Yeah, it won't be my fault. Okay, so sometimes they can rush into it and go, yes, I want to buy that. And then you think the sale's been made. And then suddenly, you know, a week, 2 weeks later, it's all gone quiet. Yeah, it's because the D's actually sort of realise, ah, shit, I probably made a bad call there. I've bought it and I didn't really think about the detail. Or they've moved on to something else. So, you know, with a high D, if you are selling, you need to get it done quite quickly before potentially they change their mind. Okay, but you can push a D a little bit more than you would certainly push a C and an S. With I's, if I get on well, if I've got a rapport with that person, they're going to like me and sort of, you know, they're going to like me, and therefore they're more likely to be swayed by my way of thinking. I know a lot of high I's who, you know, end up buying all sorts of stuff. So, okay, if I'm a C, yeah, and I'm selling, my natural style is to go into detail, yeah, which might, with an I, will bore the pants off them. You know, they'll be sitting there looking at their watch going, when's this going to be over? I need to be out. I need to be away somewhere. And they're not very good at building rapport, yeah, and relationships with people. So they're going to put off the I's and the S's straight away. B's will put up with them as long as it's relevant. So S's, you know, are generally quite good at this, you know, because they like to support people and nurture them. Okay, but they can find D's a bit too aggressive, so they might not follow them up. S is a rubbish at follow-up. Okay, because if they follow up somebody and they say no, S's take it personally. Oh, you didn't like me. So they'd rather not follow up and therefore not get rejected. Yeah, because at least if I haven't followed up, I haven't lost the sale. It's still on my statistics. It's still on one of my numbers. So we've got to understand what profile we are, and then we've got to understand how we, you know, what type of person we're actually selling to. And are we changing our style? The best salespeople have the ability to change their style depending on the type of person that they're actually selling to. Okay, but even if, you know, that's not you, yeah, then be aware that when you are selling to other styles where there may be some challenges, and sometimes it's, you know, you could have a double act, you know, might be, well, I'm not great at selling to this type of person, so you find somebody else that can sell to them. So we look at this and say, really, there's sort of 4 types of salespeople. Okay, there's the order taker. Okay, so somebody that sits there, they're passive, they wait for somebody to come and order from them. Okay, so which profile do you think would be the order taker from that? So, Andy?
I imagine it'd be the letter S, so right down in that bottom right corner.
Yeah, great. So S is, you know, very good. You know, they'll be there, be very attentive when somebody comes to them, but they're not going to go out and sort of drive sales. Okay, they'd much rather be a passive salesperson. So, Okay, so the order taker waits for somebody to buy. Then got the product bore. So somebody that just likes to talk about the product all the time. We do this, we're great at this. You know, our product does this, it's got these specifications, you know, and so the person that would give you a brochure and then read through the brochure line by line to you. So what? So Andy, which profile was that one be?
That's going to be Gareth Laybourne approach, which is what that was, the aggressive style one.
No, that is not so aggressive. It's more detail focus.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
So it's going to be the C, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So then we've got the overseller. So somebody who will sell you the world. Who will actually sort of, you know, doesn't stop talking, you know, likes to sort of paint a real great picture of it, will promise that it will do 101 things when it only does 2.
That'll be the I type.
That'll be the I, yeah. So the influencer, and then you've got the pushy seller, yeah, which will be the person that actually beats you into a sale, feels like they're beating you into a sale. They're not really. They just want to go at a quick pace because they want to bugger off, you know. They want to hit their sales targets. You know, they want to you know, smash their record, and you're just a pawn in that process. Okay, so each one of those can work. You know, they have their place. I'm not saying that, you know, that they can't in certain situations, but really what we want to see ourselves at as the problem solver. Okay, so we professionally help people to buy what they want. And in order to do that, we've got to have a process. We've got to have a way to actually make sure this happens. Okay, what I'd say, starting point is to understand our DISC profile so that we can, you know, we know how we tick and where our strengths are, but also learn how to read other people as quickly as we can. Because if we can understand, you know, the profile I'm trying to sell to, it really does help us adapt our style accordingly. So, and certainly, you know, if we're sending proposals, emails, the way we would send those would change depending on the profile of person that we're actually talking to. So what do I need to do then? So that's who do I need to be? You know, I need to understand that I've got to become a better salesperson. So I've got to develop my own sales skills. I've got to be better at reading people, understanding myself and understanding other people. And then we've got to start thinking, right, what do we do? So the first thing I would always say with this is where sales isn't our #1 priority, but we are asked to do sales, is we have to make time for it. Okay, so if I've been given a sales target, yeah, then I need to make sure I've got enough time in my diary to achieve the target that I'm going after. So am I building it in enough sales meetings into my diary? So going back to those statistics, you know, the number of inquiries, the qualification, the number of meetings, do I have space to actually do enough activity in order to get the results that I want? When's the best time for me to do those sales meetings? Yeah, is it first thing in the morning when I'm fresh? Yeah, or actually, do I need to clear the decks and it's better to be in an afternoon? I'm a bit more relaxed in the afternoon. Is it towards the end of the week? Is it at the beginning of the week? So really think about, you know, what is the sales activity I'm being asked to do, and when do I actually build that into my diary? Because most of you are not, sales isn't your not only priority. I would say it's #1, but it's not your only priority. So you've got to build all of these other aspects into your week. Okay, make sure it's in there. Next thing to think about is when a prospect comes in, so when the marketing has worked and that the inquiry is there, yeah, or you're in front of somebody for the first time, is where are they on this curve? Okay, this is what I would say is the qualification process. So a tiny percentage will be ready to buy right now. Okay, even inquiries coming in, you know, can you give me a price on this? They may not be right in this point where they are ready to sign at that moment. Okay, I generally say that's about probably, here is somewhere between 1 and 10% of people will actually buy there and then. It depends on what product you're selling, but for most of you guys, you know, it's going to be somewhere around that line. There'll be a small percentage that really have no interest at all. Okay, so they've come to you, they're just price shopping, you know, they're tire kicking, you know, or you've knocked on their door and they're just not, they're never going to buy from you. Okay, and this is where marketing and lead generation and qualification come in. That process is designed to clear these out, make sure these people are processed very quickly, then deal with these people in here. So these are the people that might be interested, and these are the people that are not yet interested. And our job, yeah, within the sales is to move people along this process. Now, sometimes with these people here, yeah, we need to put these people back into a pot. We've qualified them. You're not quite ready yet. I'll give you some information. I need to nurture you now. Okay, now they go onto the database. They're sent emails on a regular basis. Maybe they're given a call, set up on the CRM system for 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 12 months' time. You know, maybe we send something through the post to them, keep in touch with them, something to nurture them over a period of time for when they might be ready. These people here, this bit here then is sales. Okay, they've shown an interest. Yeah, they are going to buy something in the near future. We've just got to make sure they buy from us. Okay, so this is basic qualification and then nurturing, and then this is the sales bit. Okay, so this is the bit that we're going to focus on now, is this transition from somebody who might be interested, maybe reasonably cold, you know, down here, into hot to trot over here. And the way that we navigate that transition is a little system I picked up from this guy, Tom Hopkins, and his book was called Sell It Today, Sell It Now. And he called this the 100% sales process. So if you follow this process, you should be able to get 100% conversion rate. Okay, I don't believe in 100% conversion rate, because I think if you've got 100% conversion rate, you're too cheap. So you'd be better off putting your prices up and getting a 80 to 90% conversion rate. Okay, but the essence is to maximize our conversion rate by following this process. And he has a very simple 4-stage process that helps us go from here, from cold to hot. Okay, and first stage for this is to build trust. Okay, people will not buy from you unless they trust you. Now, trust comes in many shapes and sizes, and I'll show you, give you a few indications of what that's going to be in a minute. You then have to identify their need. Okay, we need to get into the detail of what is it they actually need. So asking, the number one way to achieve that is to ask questions. Okay, so what is it you really need? Because what happens is often they come and ask us for something, and that's not what they need. They think they need it, but they don't know. So it's a little bit like and I use a doctor's analogy. So I come into the doctor's surgery, I've got a small arm, and I go to the doctor, can I have 3 paracetamol, please? Because I've got, a sore arm. Well, that's what I think I need, but that's not what I actually need. What I actually need is my arm put into a cast because my arm's broken. So our job is to analyze the situation through asking questions in order to find out what they really need. And then once I know that, then I can show how I can help. Okay, so I don't tell them about what I do, what my product does, or anything about solution until I've been through these two parts of the process. And too many times when you get a hot lead coming in, or you think is a hot lead, you go straight into help, and then they go, oh, let me think about it. Yeah, and I still do it today. I'll get all excited about a lead come in, I go straight into this is what you need, this is how I can help you. And then they go, oh, right, thanks. Let me go and think about it. I didn't build any trust up, and I really didn't identify their need. Once I've done that, then I can look at actually speeding this process up. How do I hurry this to a conclusion? Okay, and he looked at this and said it's a little bit like reducing temperature down. And then, so this is the resistance, sales resistance. So you reduce the sales resistance down, and then you build up sales acceptance. So building trust, so making sure they know, like, and trust you, and then identifying their need, that is what gets them to a point where they're now open to your solution. So things like, commonality and credibility. People like themselves. So when you go into a prospect's sort of office, I'm always looking around that office for something there that I've got a commonality with. Maybe there's a picture on the wall, maybe there's a trophy, maybe there's a family portrait, maybe there's keys to a car, something in that room that I can look at and go, oh, do you know what, I like that. Football teams. Okay, find something, there's some commonality between you and them, because the psychology has shown that people like people, that are similar to them get on well. So, and the way to think about this is if, let's say you're in holiday in a remote island in, let's say where they, let's say South America, you're in a remote part of South America, no one speaks English. You walk into a bar, there's hundreds of people there, they're all speaking Spanish, you don't speak any Spanish, and there's one English person that starts speaking. Okay, you cannot help but be attracted to go and talk to that person. And you will psychologically trust that person just because they speak English and everyone else speaks Spanish more than anyone else in that room. Okay, they may be, a serial murderer, a criminal, the most untrustworthy person in the world, but psychologically you will trust them because you have a commonality of language. Okay, and if the same was true with people, again, let's say it was a group of English speaking people, and you spoke to a few of them, and there was one person from your same village or same town, or supported your same football team, then you will naturally be more trustworthy of that person than anybody else, whether it's true or not. Okay, because we're programmed genetically to actually associate and trust people who are more like ourselves. And this is why we have issues with, why we've got this issue with bloody Russia at the moment, is because, he sees anyone that's talking in a Western way as being a threat. Okay, so we can use this to our advantage when we're coming to sales by finding some commonality with the people that we're talking to. Credibility and competency, you've got to get across fairly quickly that you, the salesperson, but also the company, has the ability to deal with these types of inquiries. We're the experts in this. Here's our proof. We've been doing this for years. You can trust us. We know what we're doing. And that's a bit like going to a doctor who's got loads of certificates. Say you needed brain surgery, and you went to see two doctors. One doctor had, a white coat, a stethoscope, and all of his certificates on the wall. Yeah. And the other doctor didn't have a stethoscope, was wearing jeans and a shabby t-shirt, had nothing on his wall. Which one would you trust the most? Now, all the certificates could be fake. It doesn't cost anything to buy a stethoscope and a white coat. But you will naturally trust those people where the visual meets up with the expectation. So often, what you wear to a sales meeting, the car you drive to a sales meeting, the pen that you use for the sales meeting, all of these things can have an impact on how you're perceived. And unconscious bias, yeah, exactly that, Claire. So we are always, there's always this unconscious bias towards things like that. Authority is a great book we did in our book club a month or so ago called Influence, the Power of Persuasion. And there were 7 things that he talked about that were all part of this. And if you want to see this work really well, Darren Brown is fantastic at this. You get the end of his TV series, and he nails this really, really well. So once you've built that trust, then we need to go into the problem identification. So we need to start asking questions. We need to go into discovery. Now, often where you're the expert, okay, and you know what the problem is, there can be a danger to miss this out. Okay, so if Ben comes, so if I'm a doctor and Ben comes into my doctor's surgery, and Ben's got a sore arm, okay, sore shoulder, and I'm the world's expert in shoulder diagnosis and cure, okay, and I can tell from 100 paces, I can diagnose Ben's problem from 100 paces. So he comes in, I say, Ben, look, don't even sit down, mate. I know what your problem is. Take 3 of these 3 times a day for the next 3 weeks and you'll be fine. Okay, how's Ben going to feel once I've given him that diagnosis? Ben, do you want to take yourself off mute and tell me how you feel?
Well, I feel pretty rushed, so I probably wouldn't trust what you've said.
Yeah. Buddy, I'm the world's expert. I'm brilliant at this. Okay, you just need to trust me. Oh, okay, I might go out, I might try, but do I really trust you? Whereas if I sit Ben down and say, right, Ben, tell me about the shoulder. How did it happen? Yeah, what impact is it having on your life, Ben? I might start poking it and I push it and it goes, and Ben goes, God, that hurts. Right. We'll take 3 of these 3 times a day for the next 3 weeks and you'll be fine. Now, how is Ben going to actually react to that? Same news, same doctor. Yeah. See, the need identification is not always for us. Okay. Very often the need identification is for them, for them to realize how big their problem is. Yeah. And that they actually need to do something about it. So often we need to slow this process down. We don't rush over here because problem identification, discovery, and qualification is all about them. Okay, so it's getting it so that they understand they've got a problem. Ideally, what you want at this is, okay, so how can you help? What do I need to do? You've explored that well enough. Now I need to do something about it. As soon as you got to that point, then you can go into your help. You can choose the product. You can show your experience. You can show the features. You can then go into demonstrating it, and then you're looking to do your sort of close of the sales. Okay. really good, he calls this a 3-option close, is, so Jan, if I give you the chance of buying this pen or not buying this pen, okay, then what you've actually got, it's a yes or no answer, isn't it? You buy the pen or you don't buy the pen.
Mhm.
So if that pen isn't quite right, the only other option you've got is no. So if I gave you, well, you've got this pen at 50 quid, you've got this pen at 10 quid, I haven't got another pen, but you've got this pen at £1, yeah, now you've got 3 options. So you're more likely to choose one of those options than actually say, no, I don't want a pen.
That's right.
Okay, so whenever we're doing a sale at this level, we always want to give at least one other option, and the statistics show that if you give 3 options, you know, a basic, better, best, yeah, then people will generally more often than not choose the middle one. Okay. Occasionally they'll choose the most expensive one, which is fantastic, but the most expensive one there is there really only to make the middle one look reasonable. And if they don't want to buy the middle one, then you've got a fallback option, which is the basic one. So if you go into Marks and Spencer's, you go into Sainsbury's, you know, that's what they do. They've got their value range, they've got their normal range, and they've got their best range. Okay, so you can, you know, you have that sort of choice, that 3-option choice, rather than having a choice of buying it or not buying it. So, and then you can get to that point where we can then close, and then really sort of the next step on from that is we've got to follow up. You know, some people, if they're C's and S's, are going to need some time to think about it. But we should always be in control of that process. We shouldn't allow somebody to go away and think about it without us saying, that's fine. No, you've got to think about this. Is it okay if I give you a call next Friday at 10 o'clock?
Kevin, just quickly, you know, the company experience at the bottom, is that just kind of like the value add in terms of the different services that you provide? Like account management and managed services and things like that, yeah? Yeah,
it's sort of restating what you set up here at the start, the credibility. So, but actually it's sort of saying, look, we, you know, as a company, we do all this all the time. Here's some examples of people that we've dealt with. Just because we said it here, this process might have taken a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. So always come back and reiterate, you know, my experience to look after you and the company's experience. Because that's a bit that sometimes gets forgotten because, well, we know our company, we know us, but sometimes we've got to get that across to them. And that often we do that in the quote back. So you'd do the quote and then you'd send them that sort of information on people who are like them and how they've benefited. So case studies, things like that can help. Okay, any other questions on the sales process? No, good. So the trust, you know, really, you know, is also about empathy. You know, it goes back to this of, you know, the doctor and Ben, and, you know, the empathy is, look, tell me about your problem. Let me understand. Seek first to understand before being understood. Yeah, empathy is about understanding other people's disc profile. So I know you're a high D, therefore I know you want to make decisions, you need the facts. This is not going to be an emotional decision, it's going to be quite a logical decision. S is, I know you're going to need time, I know you're going to want to have confidence that other people have done this. Okay, so empathy is taking the time to understand what's going on in that person's head and then changing your style to suit them, not just, this is the way I do sales and I do it for everybody, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. So the way that we communicate with people is, we use our words, we use our tonality, our voice, and we use body language. So when we're actually communicating, let's go back pre-Zoom, when we're communicating face to face, what percentage of communication do you think is actually comes across in the words that we use? High percentage, low percentage? Just jot it in the chat box. Low percentage, yeah. Okay. Stats say it's around about 7%, which is quite difficult to believe, really. 7% of communication is actually the actual words that we use. So tonality is around about 38%. Okay, and if you don't sort of believe this, I can say no in probably about 100 different tones. Each one of them has a different meaning. Okay, so the word itself is only a small part of communication. The tonality in which we use it is a bigger part. But actually, one of the biggest parts is body language. So when we're actually communicating face to face, over half of our exchange of information is going to be done through body language. So if I'm just standing there rigid, with my hands in my pockets, looking like I don't care, saying something, then no matter what I say and how I say it, the person's not going to believe me. Take away the fact that we are, with modern communication now, that body language is actually less. So here, normally when I do this face to face, I can be standing up, I'm waving my arms. When we're on Zoom, I'm reliant less on body language. Okay, so more is actually the words I use and tonality. So tonality now in communication over the phone or Zoom is now, 5 times bigger than the actual words I use. So making sure that, that when you're speaking with real tone about what you're trying to get across. Okay, and that's why I think you've got to have passion in sales. You've got to love what you sell. If you don't love and you don't believe in what you sell, you might say the words, but your body language, your tonality is going to destroy it. And that's why you need to practice this stuff, because through practice, you learn the words better, but actually you're practicing the tonality and the body language that's going to work. When we come to email, okay, and this is the big killer. When we're communicating to email, there is no body language, there is no voice tonality. You are 100% reliant on the words that you put into there and the context in which they're reading them. Okay, and if you look at times where you've communicated through text or email and it's gone wrong, you'll see this clear as space. But the words we put in are relied upon in the context that I'm reading them, and therefore I can read any voice and tonality onto it. Okay, and if you know that person quite well and they write something just short and sharp, you can picture that person saying it. And if you think that person is having a go at you, you'll visualize them having a go at you saying those words. And then you'll respond in that way, and then I'll read that in that way, and suddenly we're in a complete mess. So if you ever see a communication going wrong, I'm not getting the answer that I want on email or text, then stop. Okay, pick up the phone, talk to the person. Because you'll never regain that situation until you actually bring back into account the voice and the body language. Okay. So we've got to be sort of, an authority in what we do. So we've got to understand our product, we've got to understand our service, and we've got to be able to get that message across to people. And we've also got to understand that people's buying decisions are a combination of logic, what we call left brain, and emotion, right brain. So every buying decision there is a combination of logic and emotion. Now, for a lot of us, we start to think that it's about 50-50, 50% logic, 50% emotion. The reality is it's 20% logic, 80% emotion. Every single buying decision, pretty much falls into that. The only one that I would say doesn't fall into that is where it's a need-based purchase, okay, a forced purchase. So if I'm forced to buy something, then it will be more logical and less emotional. So if you think about car insurance, okay, you have to buy car insurance, don't you? Yeah. So it's not really a motive buying decision. So where do most people go and decide which insurance policy they're going to go to?
Cheapest.
The cheapest. Yeah. So that's why all the compare the market websites came up, because comparison website, you just put your details in there and it comes up with the cheapest ones, and you'll look through those and logically you'll make your decision. There's no emotion on it. There's no sort of attachment to the company you go to. Yeah. So sometimes you'll look at value, you look at the services that are in there, but it's a fairly cold clinical decision that you make. Okay. Now, if you've had a claim, and you're in a serious accident and the insurance company looked after you really, really well, or the insurance company were a real pain in the arse and really annoyed you, then the emotional decision, and you'll either say, well, I'll stay with that company or I'll leave. Okay. The other thing to think about the compare the market websites, the comparison websites, is how do I know which comparison website to use? Which side are they playing on, the logic side or the emotional side, when they advertise their sites?
Strictly logic.
Logic?
No, I'd say emotion for sure.
How do they use emotion to make you choose?
Free gifts.
Free gifts with the offers. They care. They put you first. Blah blah blah. So anything to try to garner the emotional attachment to that particular site, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, compare the market is a classic. They use meerkats.
But it's not even that, it's the baby meerkat.
And then they use a baby meerkat.
Yeah.
So they really, so then they're not playing on your emotions, they're playing on your kids' emotions. Mm. Okay, so now you're actually buying your car insurance based on what toy you can give your kids. Okay, so even at that level, they've actually managed to turn a non-emotional, logical buying decision into an emotional buying decision. So when we're dealing with, selling to our customers, you've got to understand that there will be an emotional decision going on here. Okay, you may not be able to see it to start with, because somebody comes in, look, I just need one of these, I need this sorted. Now, this is even harder potentially when you're not selling to the end user. So if you're selling to a bigger company who has a procurement manager, I've just got to procure this particular product at the cheapest possible price. So this is a logical decision, and that's where I am. I've just got to get this done. There's still an emotional factor going on, because what what's the emotion behind that person's decisions generally? So that procurement officer, the buying officer. Getting it done. What's the emotional thing, though, Claire? What's so think emotionally what could be going through their mind?
I would just say they've got so many things on their plate, they just try and get something done to get on to the next thing.
Yeah. So it might just be
Making people happy within the company.
I need to make, yeah. And what's the biggest emotional drive for those people? I don't want to
get it wrong.
Get it wrong. I'd really, if I get this wrong, yeah, and somebody comes after me, I don't want it to get it wrong. And there was within IT, there was an old phrase that says, "No one gets sacked from buying IBM," because you knew where you were with that. It may not be the best, yeah, but no one's going to sack you for actually choosing that thing. That's an emotional decision, yeah, because it's about being sacked, not about the price. It's not about, is it the best product? Has it got the best features, longevity? It's purely an emotional one, that which one's not going to get me sacked. So when you're looking to sell to somebody, you're looking for, is there a clear emotion here? If there is, great, play on it. If there's not, there will be. And if you can find that emotion, then you've got a better chance of improving your conversion rate.
It's building rapport, isn't it? As simple as that. If you can build a rapport with someone, there's your emotional interest. Exactly.
And this is why tenders are so bloody awful.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because with a tender, you have no, I mean, they basically brought the tender process in because they knew that the emotional decisions were causing problems. So they basically took all the emotion out, said all you've got to do is tender, and that's where you are. Now, if you're good at tendering, then fine. You can build a system. Does it get a better quality product at the end of the day? I don't think so. I think it's caused more problems than paper bags under the backhanders and things like that. But there is an element that it should create a level playing field. So, but the tender process isn't really a sales process. It's just it's another game. It's just those people that are good at writing tenders get the work. So, and if you do tender stuff, I seriously consider getting somebody who's a professional tender writer in, who knows how to play the game, because that's what it is. So the other thing that we're trying to sort of overcome, if you remember from previous ones, is our formula for change. Everyone has a resistance to buying from you. Even if they want to buy right now, there will be a resistance there. The first steps is, how do I help you? Okay, so if you remember from the trust and the need identification, that really is about building on the dissatisfaction and the vision. Okay, so go back to the doctor. The doctor is poking your arm, to see where the pain is, so that you can create dissatisfaction, so that you actually do something about it. If there's no dissatisfaction, then you'll go, oh, fine, I'll put up with it for a bit longer. Yeah. If there's no dissatisfaction to poke, then what you've got to create is the vision of the future. This is what life will be like once you've bought this product. Okay, this is the quality of the service you're going to get once you've bought this product and service. So you've got to understand, does our presentation, do our quotes, do they get across enough of the emotion, the dissatisfaction and vision, or are we just regurgitating the first steps? Because if this is all you're doing, you're gonna have a 50% or less conversion rate. If you bring dissatisfaction and vision and you bring the emotion in, you're going to get up towards a 60 to 80% conversion rate. And I know, from my own experience, I lose sales because I haven't been able to tap into this. And that could be my skill. I just haven't been able to build enough trust and rapport to ask the difficult question. Sometimes I think I know what it is, but it's not. So I take the superficial one, the first answer that's come, and I forget to dig deeper. Okay. But whatever decision there is, whatever they're trying to do, if you ask enough questions, you'll find what that emotion is. So basically, by doing that, you've got to ask questions, and then they give you an answer. And you ask a deeper question, you get another answer. And you ask a deeper question, yeah, and you keep going. And ultimately, what should happen is when you hit the emotion button, they will ask you a question. So what do we need to do to move this forwards? So how does your product help? Okay, and this is a great feeling when you come to this. If you can get to this point and they ask you a question, because then you just go, right, here's the answer. And that's when you know you've got sale. Okay, if you ask the first question and accept the first answer, then, you know, if they're desperate enough and the resistance is low enough, you may get the sale. But as I said, you'll be around about a 50% conversion rate. Really good salespeople can really ask deeper questions until they get them sort of saying, okay, so how can you help me? What does your product do? And then when we're actually showing them how we can help to move forward, another thing to think about is there are 3 modalities of learning. So people learn in 3 particular ways. So some people are visual people. Okay, I'm a visual person. Okay, so I learn by seeing things. That's why Zoom for me works, but telephone doesn't work, because auditory, yeah, what we hear, I'm very low on. Okay, I struggle when people are talking that it goes in one ear and goes out the other ear. I'm also very kinesthetic. You know, I also learn by doing. So at school, you know, and still today, I have to write down, I have to be writing everything that the person's saying. Okay, so when I'm coaching, I'm taking notes, because as soon as I stop writing, yeah, then and there's nothing visual going on, then my auditory, you know, I'll lose, I'll be off somewhere else. And computers have worked the worst, because suddenly an email will ping up and I'll go and look at the email. So I know that I'm sort of, you know, I'm a visual kinesthetic type person. So for people selling to me, need to show me, yeah, how it's going to work. They can't, if they just sit there and tell me, then I'm probably not going to engage with them, and I'm not going to buy from them. Okay, so the population is predominantly made up of about 40% are predominantly visual, 20% are auditory, and about 40% are kinesthetic. Okay, now there are ways you can identify whether people are auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. Okay, it's a skill that people like Darren Brown, you know, stage hypnotists use really well. Okay, so they can work out very quickly whether you're a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic person. They will change their language to suit that particular style. So auditory peoples will say, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Visual people will say, yeah, I see what you're saying. And kinesthetic people will say, yeah, I'm feeling what you're saying. So their language will be around what modality they revert to the most. Now, this is a really good skill. It takes years to master. Okay, being an auditory person does not make me a very good person at it, because what they say is I don't really hear. Okay, so I'm definitely not the person to teach you how to do this. But if you do want to do it, you look up NLP, neuro linguistic programming. That's where you learn these skills. So But when we're doing our presentations, then make sure that we've got a balance of visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Okay, so if we're doing something over the phone, auditory, and back it up with visuals, and give them something to touch and feel. Okay, send something through the post, send it on an email, a video that presents what you're trying to get across, rather than just words. So there's many ways that we can do this to actually, if we can tap into all of these three, then we've got a greater chance of success in our proposals. Okay, and certainly, Jan, with you've got a visual kinesthetic product, so you've got to get that product out in their hands. It's going to be key.
I think my background as well, like from a recruitment point of view, I come from that traditional type of sales background, and it's been drilled into me how important it is to have that mix of, you might pick the phone up to somebody to start with, just to, confirm that it's actually a real lead, like qualification, like you were saying earlier. But then I always follow it up where at all possible by going out and meeting that person, doing that full-on investigation in a face-to-face rather than over the phone, and then following it up again with more samples and things that they can touch and feel,
No, that's it. And that's what I say, in certain industries, sometimes you're trained well, you're given these skills. Sometimes they don't tell you why they happen. They just teach you a way that's worked for them. But when you break it down into the science behind it, then you can start to see, okay, that's why we send that out. That's why that works. And so you can keep doing that. And then the final part is, we've got to hurry them along. So follow up, follow up, follow up. If people don't, in that process, if they don't make a decision reasonably quickly, then the half-life of them saying yes is massive. You've probably got a 50% less chance after a week, probably a 20% less chance after a month, 10% after a quarter. It really does go down. But you would have seen it before, where certainly a lot of people in trades are awful at this. We had somebody come around to measure up for some windows, to give us a quote. And I think 2 weeks after they came round, we never got a quote. So we chased it, and then we got a quote. And then, because we were busy and doing other things, no one followed up that quote. So we just, basically, we didn't go ahead with it. We just put up with what we'd got, because the dissatisfaction, the vision weren't there. We had no vision of what it would look like, no dissatisfaction. So we just stayed as we are. Okay, now they might say, well, I don't want to be pushy. Well, maybe I needed a bit of a push. It wasn't number one priority, but I wouldn't have got somebody out to get the quote if I wasn't interested. And one of the big keys for a salesperson is getting to a no. Getting to a yes is probably number one. The second is get to a no as quickly as you possibly can. Because if somebody comes in and says, Gareth, no, I don't want to buy from you, that's great, fine, I'll move on. I'm not going to waste another moment thinking about you, beyond keeping in touch. And that should be automated anyway. Whereas if they're in your pipeline, if they're on your CRM system and it flags up every week, call Kevin, call Kevin, call Kevin, and you just keep leaving it, you're just wasting brain power and wasting time looking at that message. And when I look at salespeople's pipelines, what I find is they're generally flogging dead horses. you know, because they don't want to lose it in their pipeline, because it's one of their KPIs, how big's your pipeline. So they're keeping hold of dead horses, but they're not phoning up people who could convert. So it's like a double whammy. Well, you're not phoning up people that can convert, and you're staying in touch with people that are never going to buy from you. Okay, so having that process is really key. But yeah, and always a no is, you know, is only a no now, not a no never. Which is like all things you should say never there. So we have to understand that some purchases, go back to that resistance, is they're going to have to change something. Okay, now, assuming that they're not coming to you because they desperately need what you're selling, assuming they're coming to buy something that, yeah, I do want this, but it's not urgent. Okay, we want them to change a state from not buying it to buying it. So it's a little bit like this sort of pan of water. We want to turn it from a liquid into gas. Okay, so we want to turn this liquid into steam. Now that, in order to do that, we have to apply heat and pressure. Okay, and that's the sort of the follow-up process that we need to keep going. Is I need to provide a bit of heat and pressure on you to get you from here to here. Now, too much heat, yeah, and I'll bore you dry. So that's when we become pushy. But not enough heat, and we stay as we are. So a great salesperson has this understanding of that person, because I've know, like, and trust them. I've built up that rapport with them, that emotional connection. So I know how much I can actually push you in order to convert. And we know that when we have this transition, you know, the transition point of water to steam is a boiling point, isn't it? It's not a calm, pleasant situation. So internally, we have this thing called perturbation. So if you haven't heard of perturbation, you've probably heard the word perturbed. When I feel perturbed, I feel emotionally uncomfortable. Okay, so you have to understand that when you're pushing your prospects through, which we do, we apply heat and pressure to get them to change their state, they may well go through some perturbation. Okay, so we've got to be prepared for that and then help them with that process. Okay, and that's why if we've done the rapport thing early on, we're in a much better position to provide that than we would be if we're doing it cold. Okay, so when you do put pressure on, expect a pushback, expect some emotion coming out, and be able to deal with that, because that's okay. It's okay for you to give me a bit of pressure. Yeah, but I know then if I've done too much, I've been too pushy, and I back off. Yeah, if I hear nothing, then I know I've got a bit more pressure that I can apply. Okay, so we've got to get this right balance of enough heat to change their state, but not too much, where we start to annoy them. So, and there's a nice little sort of statistic from the National Sales Executive. You know, nearly half of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. And I would say that's pretty true. Certainly for all the things I've ever bought, you know, very few, you know, probably, you know, 1 in 2 would actually do the follow up. And then, that drops down to, you know, a second contact is down at 25%, a third contact 12%. Only 10% make more than 3 follow-ups. Okay, but we know that 2% of sales are made on the first contact, 3% on the second, 5% on the third. Yeah, 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. Okay, so we have to be prepared for that long game in some of this. You know, we do have to, you know, what we want to do is really get to understand, have you gone off the idea of this? Or is it still on the agenda? And I'll ask that, I'll say that into an email. Yeah, do I assume for your lack of silence you've gone off the idea of buying this? And they'll go, no, it's still there. It's just that other things have got in the way. That's fine. Okay, so is it okay if I keep in touch with you? Yeah, that's fine. So gain permission to keep in touch with people. As I said, as a salesperson, you've always got to be in control of the next step. You never, ever wait for your prospect to come back to you. Yeah, oh, I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks, Gareth. That's great, fantastic. So if I could just make a note in my diary that you'll give me a call, what, Thursday, Friday that week? Yeah, and if I don't hear from you, would you mind if I just drop you an email, gave you a call? No, that'd be fine. Okay, so you own the next step. So when you're reviewing, when you have sales teams yourself and you're reviewing their progress, yeah, you want to be able to see every single contact there. There is a next action. What am I going to do next? There should never, ever be, oh, I'm waiting for them to come back to me. That is a no-no, because it won't happen. 100% guarantee they'll never come back to you. Okay. So once we understand all of this, we've got all of these sort of steps in this process, we have to keep it going. We have to systemize it to make it work. Okay. So that gives us consistency, it's measurable, and it helps us to hold ourselves and other people accountable. Okay, we have to have this process of where people are, from that cold to hot, where they come in, which contacts are we nurturing, which contacts are actually got opportunities that we're seeing through, where is each of those opportunities, how much is an opportunity, who owns that opportunity, what's the next step in that process. And the only way in my head that you can actually do all of that is to have a CRM system. Contact relationship management system. Now, there are hundreds of these out there, from very expensive ones like these ones at the top through to free ones that you can sort of get. Even the old Rolodex, if you're old enough to remember a Rolodex, was a basic CRM system, a notebook. If you've only got a few, then that's okay. Spreadsheets, yes, you can, but if you're going to be serious about this and you're going to build a business around it, you've got to have a proper CRM system. Okay. And I know, sort of Jan's been working with one. Gary's sort of, got one that he should be using, not just using it yet, he should be using. So we've got to have that to make it work. But before if you don't have one and you're thinking of moving on to one, then map it out first. Okay, think about that process, that trust, need, help, hurry process. An inquiry comes in, what do we do with it? Where does it go? What are the steps that we should be doing? Map them out, link it up, and then you can build your CRM system around that. Okay, so you sort of know where people are in that process. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Really get clear what it is. So, okay. And then, don't be afraid of scripts and checklists. Okay, again, we're trying to get consistency, repeatability within this. So having a script of how we answer the phone, having a template of how we respond to an email. Quotes should be systemized. There are some really good quoting systems out there now that you can set them all up, and then you basically put the information in and boom, it does it all. It can send it electronically, you can sign it electronically. There are so many systems out there that should be making our life a lot easier, but also replicatable, that we should definitely be looking into them. Telephone scripts are great. Okay, because if you think about going to a play, and watching a play, they actually go through that play as if it's like real life. Yeah, they don't make it up as they go along. They don't have one day you go and see that play and they say one thing and the next day is another thing. Yeah, they train to be great actors. Well, if you're a great salesperson, you should train to be a great salesperson, that your script and how you say things is repeatable and you get better at it and more confident at it and consistent at it, so you're going to get the right results. Okay, and that's really where that sort of, those scripts and training comes in. So. Good. So that is the end of our sales. So any final questions that have come up from anybody? If you've got a particular challenge in sales that you want to sort of say, well, how does that process work for that particular one? It's always good to talk about. So, everyone's looking extremely excited about taking these things away to use.
Oh, I'm excited about it, because it's done what I wanted it to, and it's made me just kind of focus on things. The only thing that I want to learn more about is, you mentioned about the heat and pressure and the people being perturbed and you're going to get pushback, etc., which I get.
Yeah.
Is there any books that you would recommend that go into that part of the process in a bit more detail? Is that covered in the book that you mentioned earlier?
The 100% sales process, Sell It Today,
Tom
Sell
Hopkins
It Now,
one.
Tom Hopkins. It's a very detailed book.
So that bit's covered in there, is it?
So that bit is covered. Yes, it's not. I don't think it's a big part from memory on it, but it certainly does help with that sort of the trial closes and things like that. I think if you want to know about the NLP side of it, sort of influencing people, I think the influence book that we did on book club, Robert Cialdini, that is a very good book on the psychological side, because basically he uses that. The premise of that is he got fed up with being sold to, so he wanted to know what the psychological thing was going on to stop him being sold to.
Right, okay.
So the book is about how do you not get sold to, but from a sales point, we want to know how you do sell to people like that, so we can use it in that way. So I would definitely use that book on the psychological side of influencing people.
Perfect, thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know, say for the R&B guys, sales isn't necessarily your number one priority, but I would always think, if I am trying to do sales, and that is part of what Clive and Julian want you to think about more on, is set a goal. Okay, be clear. I want to do one sale. I want to sell something to somebody. Okay, it doesn't matter what it is. Don't go too big too soon. Set a small little goal that you can then focus on. Yeah. Think about what your limiting beliefs are within sales. I'm not really a salesperson. Okay, great. Then read a sales book. Yeah. No one was born a great salesperson. Yeah. All great salespeople have learned that skill. Every one of you has got what it takes to be a great salesperson, because you're a great human being. So you've got the inherent skills. You've just got to hone those skills through practice. And then think about your process. So if I was to go and sell to people, what would I do? How would I approach somebody? How would I build that trust? How would I actually find out what their challenge was so that they could see their challenge? How would I then influence them to show how I can help them? And how do I keep on top of it and make sure I get a sale? Okay. And to be honest, you can use that sales process for selling anything. Okay. So if you want to sell something to a family member, your other half, your kids, it's the same process. Okay, so even if you're not selling in a business sense, think about something you want to sell. So if you want to sell, I've just got one of my clients, he's just had a baby, and his business has been really tough, and he needs a break. So he's managed to sell to his wife that he's going to St. Lucia for a week on his own to sit in the sun for a week. So if you can sell that to your wife with a newborn child, you can sell anything to anybody. So look, take that away. Say this has been recorded, so please do come back to it. Come back to this again in 3-6 months' time. For a bit of a refresher. But the best thing, like anything, is put it into practice. Try it out, see how it goes, and if it goes wrong, that's great. Okay, failure in sales is a success because you will, as long as you learn from it. When you lose a sale, why did I lose that? Which one of those areas did I fail? Did I not build trust? Did I not identify? Did I not show I could help? Did I not follow up? Okay, and then what am I going to do as a result of that? If you do that, then yeah, you will start selling more to more people. So, great. It's been a pleasure, guys. Enjoy your evening, and let's hope that the world is not completely at war by the time we wake up in the morning. And see it. Let's hope that somebody can sell peace to Mr. Putin, because we're not doing a great job at the moment. So take care, sleep well, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.